Ford means to cross, doesn't it? The crossing to Bellis. So a lot of transformation, cross idea, and a name like Bonnie, it's just such a female name. So who knows on that score? But certainly we'll be doing more transvestigation and we'll have a look really closely at this guy. And I want to cover more about his death, which I feel could have been a hoax. It certainly was a real mind game because it shocked Australia. They were just breaking it internationally and suddenly the dream seemed to be over. And Australians are always looking for a bit of success overseas, something that an Aussie made it, and this band certainly sort of made it, as it were. So this will be the first video of a three-part series. In the second video, we'll really look at the Bon Scott death, or was it a hoax death? Because it really looks very suspicious. We'll just have a look at the number codes, the time, the place, the names involved, and see if we can see any typical spellcraft there. And for the third video, we'll look at AC/DC in the period like 2000 to now, the modern version of AC/DC and how they've gone around the world playing those big concerts in Spain and South America and all over the place, as you know. The guy Keith Richards out of the Rolling Stones, they had one of the biggest concerts ever for 500,000 people in Toronto, and the Guess Who and the AC/DC were the main guests. And Keith Richards said, we're going to have this really big concert, he talks about, we're looking for somebody, and AC/DC, they are stadiums, man, they are stadiums, he said. Stadium rock, we were doing a stadium, so we wanted the stadium band. And when you see those guns go off and everything, and they certainly get the crowd into a frenzy. I'm over all that now, but you can understand young people, they need to escape from their workaday world. And when we used to go and see bands like AC/DC here in Australia at local venues, and there was a time when I did see them at a place called the Bondi Lifesaver, and another time at a hall, and another time at the Royal Easter Show they played. So I've seen these guys in the flesh, and they certainly had that Aussie thing about them. All their lyrics sound to me like they're written from just standing in a bar in Australia. Everything they've said, it was always occurred to me that you could hear an old bloke talking in a bar and he'd say something like, mate, this girl down the road, and she's got the jack, mate. You know why? Because she goes off like TNT. And things about like barflies, every little dog-eat dog, and that's another Australian band, sorry, but she was on a highway to hell. These are things you could go out west here to a pub, and if you just taped some old bushy talking, you'd get half of their lyrics, no joke. The real Australian sort of slang terms, like that one TNT, especially. High voltage is a thing we say a lot, that girl or guy, they're high voltage, meaning they're full of action or whatever. And so it always intrigued me that the simple songs, and you could just go to a bar in Australia, pen down a few words and go back home and write yourself an AC/DC song. Fly on the Wall, there's so many. Thunderstruck, very common Australian bushy term for, if you're amazed by something and knocked over dead. I was thunderstruck because that girl was TNT because she had the jack, if you know what I mean. All right, stay tuned and we'll look at this band a bit more and how they are playing their little role in this major spell and see coming out of New Zealand part of the story. That's an interesting thing in itself, isn't it? And the name Rudd. So I'll be looking at a bit more, and full, of course, for horses. So it's all... So the red horse, and we've had that Philippine Dove Chance, and the other day it was one I missed on the page there in a video. I was talking about these things, and the Philippines was in the stuff, and then we had that Rialto horse that died at the Melbourne Cup. So it's all about horses all year, as you know, and I've talked about this. The school involved in the MH17, King Topple Horse's Head. Right, stay tuned, more on AC/DC coming. Okay, this command module landing in the water, I really have troubles with this. Now, some of you would be aware of my work on this module and the size, where it's inhumane to think that 3 men could travel in that. The distances they say is the amount of space available, a little over 200 cubic feet. And we have the parachute issue, which I've covered in another video, where they're stored in the top here, so taking space. Then we have the moon cargo, including rocks, but also other stuff that they take with them to survive. And the ridiculous story, which I'm going to do a video just on it, the umbilical cord. But I think what I'm showing you here is really telling for the fakery. Look, this thing is poured allegedly out of these little holes all the way around here. I'd really like to know the mechanics of this. How this thing hits the ocean as we see quite a speed still, and nothing quite splash, and I've covered that in other videos. And then somehow these things come out and ride it and put it right up in the top of the water nicely, so these well-designed boats of matching colour can all circle around it and pick up the astronauts. That's what we're led to believe. But I'm really worried about how this doesn't melt with all the heat that would be exposed to. It's only just around the corner from the old heat shield. It doesn't compete right around the corner. And what sort of valves and how do they open them at that precise time? This is very good technology and looks pretty ridiculous to me. I don't know what you think. Especially this part. How is the tarp bit underneath it located? I mean, there's the heat shield. How does it, nothing can come through the heat shield. It all has to come around the side and go underneath. That's absolutely ridiculous. That just doesn't make sense. How could anything do that? What sort of technology is this? And very interesting. Or does this just float in the ocean and this particularly splashes down on top of it? That would seem more the only idea. Yeah. Very, very comical indeed. Look at this shot here. Done in the studio. Look at that. It's a studio. It looks like Batman, doesn't it? I've got an audience here and they're laughing their heads off because it is Batman. Little clouds. They have something in them there. Not liking the look of that little cloud there. Very interesting indeed, eh? And the changing colours of this thing too. It's a very goldy, silvery look here, and it's in waves here. Look at the wave. Look, the splash down. Real sort of meme in that one. Yeah, it's very silver, but here it's like khaki, ready for gun, for army use. So not a lot adds up with the retrieving of the space vehicle. So we completely changed colour there. Girls crawling out here. And these photos seem to be taken awfully close. What are they taken from a big ship or something? How do they get this angle? Wouldn't have a big ship so close to this precious cargo. It might bump it and kill them at the last second. Surely they'd stay a bit away, wouldn't they? This is in a tank. This is in a swimming pool, I reckon. They make waves on, Hollywood style. Pretty big sort of dam lake that they have there. Look at that. Very telling indeed, eh? So yes, NASA comedy. How do they tarp underneath this? Come on, all these people who love NASA, I want to know how this is all objected from this. This thing can store a lot of things. Look at the size of it. Look at the size of the man there. 3 of them inside, parachutes, the bags for this, the rocket engines, the cargo, and the moon rocks. Yeah, it's a tight fit, I tell you. Must have very thin walls. It is absolutely ridiculous. Well, I just thought I'd better have a little bit more of a look at old Steve and Jack. Jack and the Beanstalk. Falling Back to Earth. Fortress music. Mars. We have Mars in the house. War themes. And fortresses. And one video. And just no icons, no pictures.
that's all you get. Now, this guy's 40 years in the industry, and he's only got the one video up. And he's also got a LinkedIn account. Now, he's got some friend here, Adrian Wilson, Delta Studios and Gym. These people would be worth pursuing. If anyone's got any time, just have a look at this for me, maybe. But Sam Forrest, advice for contacting Jack. He's into all these things, his interests, rugby, football, cricket, the great delicacies of life. He's got all this stuff going on here, but no real pictures. But look, Cyprus, Texas and London. We always talk about how the moon was shot in London and Texas, and maybe California as well, but Texas is certainly known for a bit of movie making on the sly. And looks like this persona, and this interest there, not that this is a real persona, or it may be a real guy, but it's not the guy we're looking at there. That looks more like DB to me. And look, the Orwells, the mystery skulls. Look, now here's a whole lot of stuff. Personal advisor to Tony Blair. Lord Michael Levy, Ministry of Sound mentioned too, I noticed that. So some people who might know a little bit more about this sort of side of the industry might be able to comment on this. Dick James music, so we've got the Elton John and Rolling Stones and Beatles and The Who and T-Rex. Oh look, Mr. Tavistock. Anyway, in what's here, but of course this just looks very suspect at all. You know, look, here we've got AM Sniper and the Mystery Skull. So he's got something else published by Jack here, and we can connect to Jack. Let's just see. Well, no, I'll do it on the Facebook one. We'll just go and see if we can send him a message here. Oh, it doesn't look like it's got an about or anything. Look, that's an interesting channel. Hey, no about. Well, you can't contact him there. Connect. See what this does. I'll connect with Jack. How do you know Jack? Well, we've done business together.
I'm a Democrat, and I'm a Republican. These days, we don't see eye to eye on much. But one thing...
Well, I'll tell you now, Serena Williams is not alone on the court. Not alone by a long stretch. This one's got the sharp Barova or whatever it is. She's got the sharp bit, mate. She's going to stab you with her knife. And she's a penis wearer. I might have had it cut off, you know, for all we know. That's what the people saying of Blondie. That one has been chopped off, for sure. A strange 8 pattern on the carpet, eh? Now have a look at this picture here. It doesn't clearly show you, actually. Look at the lack of out bum. Look at the flat back. Look. Man ass, as our mate said. See the low sort of trajectory? The man ass. And I mean, this story of the drug taking, I mean, how do we know this is true? Everything else in the media is fake. They must just need these stories to feed their fake machine. Get people talking about tennis or something, I don't know. I thought that about that Lance Armstrong. Because he's a tranny anyway. Women have a better threshold of pain, so for long distance cycling, these super freaks very handy. Same as long distance swimmers. Same as it's appearing to me many athletes, you know, I don't know where it begins and ends, but it's certainly hard to beat a super freak. A normal woman's not going to be able to beat things like this. So just have a look at the whole scene of the tennis world. I looked at Andy Murray before and I thought he was very feminine. And this will no doubt be a big story in Russia, so it fits all together with the old poking of the bear we saw Charles do. They've been poking and picking at most things Russian for a while, and this just fits in that agenda too, of course. It's touching the third eye bit. And you can see clearly it's got a lot of blokey features. Look at that hand. The hand really stood out to me. Man hand, man shoulders, man looking neck. It'll be a man for sure. How could it compete with Williams if it wasn't? You know, that's the way it is.
drug test at the Australian Open, eh? Now, there's another funny thing, and I'll do a video on myself, but I just wanted to show it to you. Martin Bryant admits guilt not knowing the camera is still recording. Look at this picture of Bryant here. Sure you'll find the person who caused all this. Me. And he's just done 7. Look. Me. You seen that? Look. Scratching the back. And then duping the light. Duping the light. All in one. Good on you, Marty. And gee, it looks a bit different to the other Martin Bryant. Martin Bryant's a bit of a changeling too, I'm afraid. If you don't know who Martin Bryant is, this is Australia's Sandy Hook type idea. Port Arthur. I'll look it up. You can't stop this on a still. We just have to play it through. Here we go again. Look, scratching the back, big duping delight. And it's me with the 7. There you go. There's a fake story and a half. Yeah, so back to Maria. How do you solve a problem like Maria? It looks pretty straight there to me. And anyway, look at the belly button. Higher than the waist, in case you don't know about that one. There's your thing, you see, right on the waist, above the waist. Look, just keep that in your mind there. Go back to Maria, and you'll see she resembles the mannish one. Here's another one if you're not sure. Look at that. And you know, they could have photoshopped this little bit of a ding in here. That looks a bit strange. Very strange looking body. Real castrato, look. The long arms. The long chest cavity. No doubt gives them good stretch. And the design of that really looks like it could hit a tennis ball, eh? Look at those shoulders. That is a warped human. And anyway, you know, if you had women and you were turning them into these pro tennis players the way this sport does, wouldn't be good for them anyway. There's no doubt are more hardy, you see, being men. And good fresh shoulder pain when they're actually playing. So they're a bit unbeatable. And that's the whole idea. Super freaks, I call them. They're super freaky. It sucks most people in. Look at that forearm. Big man arms there. Look at the length of them. They're man arms. You can see, look. Look at the length of the arm. Women have shorter arms. So what an advantage to in tennis against playing against women. You know, when she was a teenager, she just would have walloped all the girls. Look at that bone coming out of the pelvic sort of bone there, or hip bone. That is just so mannish, that look there. Look, straight up and down. That's just how they are. And you saw it had no arse when it was standing up there, the profile. I don't have the curve out. Look. Just added on titties. And away you go. And they even chopped the package off. So somebody said about Blondie. Just go and have a look at the old picture of her now. Looking straight like Joan Rivers. And you mean to tell me you don't think Joan Rivers is a man? Come on now. Wait and see this one in years to come. It'll get the Joan Rivers look too. Of course, with the tennis players, it's not exactly the same as with the actor ones. Because they do a lot more reconstruction, no doubt, to them, and then it really fires up badly. This one just goes off to the country, lives in a house, wears a big scarf around its head. I've seen it before, haven't you? And lives a life like that, a bit like Bridget Bardot did. But, you know, sports people in particular, and they just don't get into the media anymore because they start taking less and less of the stuff, and they get too mannish to get on there. The Great Pyramid Hoax. Yes, well, the Great Pyramid Hoax hasn't gone very far, and of course that's not surprising. Something that's sort of such a basis to everything we believe. Just like other topics we've been seeing that have been falling like the towers, but the pyramids are holding firm. Because, I mean, that pyramid power, that's pretty special, and a lot of people thrive on pyramid power, so that might be a pyramids debunked. Now, originally, I made a video about Tutankhamun and the treasure, and how I
considered the treasure was no doubt fabricated in London or outside of London somewhere, some little rural community, by master brass smiths, as it were, etc., and artisans, and then they could parade that around the world and say they found it here in Egypt. So that sort of adds to what I'm going to talk about now. But it was Dave Johnson, and this is his video up here. Somebody else has put it up, and I thought that was good because this is really something that should be spread. So love or hate Dave Johnson, this was a good topic. And it just sprung from the idea of the treasure being fake. We wanted all the whole building. And this video appeared, and I made a video the next day saying the day the pyramids died, because it truly was an outstanding find. Just to go back and look at the images and see how many different depictions there are of this thing. Now he's got this really nutted here. I'll just start playing it, then I'll play his narration as well. It just wants to play for some reason. It's stalling. Oh, here we go. Oh, get that box. So you see we've got 1572 that they put this imagery down to. And you can see there pyramids on top of plateaus. Now we know artists don't depict things exactly, but I mean to say, now look at this. It's quite a bit different, isn't it? And there's hollow little pyramids, little miniature pyramids, and strange buildings in the background. And he's got high written there for the head. And it's interesting how the head goes from female to male eventually. Maybe from male to female, back to male, in fact. It's a very strange head indeed. So this is an idealised sort of idea here, but look, there's no little pyramids like that. Just a couple over in a very far background, I noticed. Look at this one here, with little pyramids up in the left-hand corner. All sorts of little measurements. And definitely a woman's head. A woman's head. And the pyramid dimensions and everything. Sort of quite a bit different to what we see there today. Now I think these things have been something for a while, but they've been added on, and really the best part of them was built between 1700 and 1800. Something to do with the French and Napoleon being down there, no doubt. See, look at this Cain Abel thing. Everything we don't know anything before 1000. That's my estimation things at the moment. You can forget all that flamenco stuff. There's a lot of rot in that. There's a few good little tidbits in flamenco. The rest, take with a grain of salt. It's just the controlled opposition alternative rubbish. But look at these images here. Look at the little hidden away sphinx looking this way. And that's back a bit of a man's head there by the look of it. It goes backwards and forwards. So there's definitely been some chicanery. It's very similar to Stonehenge. People say why? Well, they're obviously hiding something, aren't they? And they're creating a Disneyland. One idea I have is they wanted to have people interested in holding the Middle East because of the control on Africa you can exercise, and also the control on Central Asia. It's a sort of wheel point, you might say. So you've got to make it interesting. And also, this has been just, it's on the US dollar bill. And that gives you a little bit of an idea of the scope of what we're looking at here. And Gary's got the 1724, which, we see that 421. And look at this head of the pyramid. Look how different that looks. There's so many inconsistencies. There's so many. And then we've considered the fraudulence of the treasure. So that adds up pretty bad, in my opinion. And just looking at the changing Sphinx, we've got some good pictures here, like this is a more recent one, obviously. If you go back in time, look at this strange image here. The angle seems different, doesn't it? And that's not that long ago, but I mean, it got the turn of the centuries type ideas. Now look at that one. That's quite a bit different even in the head to me. Especially the scale seems, these seem larger than what ultimately is there. Look, it's a little pinhead compared
this. And then look at that one. Look how much bigger that head looks. Admittedly, this is sort of some sort of lithograph. It doesn't look like a real painting. There are strange eyes that they put on it here. But nothing adds up in this whatsoever. And my idea with these pyramids is that they've been big rock outcrops, something like this. And they've just carved these down, and then they've put rocks maybe on the outside, smaller blocks all the way on there, carving it. They've carved this basic shape out, and then just rendered it over with blocks. So it gives it the impression it's all made of blocks. And we've seen things like that with Baalbek. That would be one idea of the construction I have anyway. I'm open to suggestions on that. But I think that's likely what we have looking at here. Just judging from the old depictions, the mountains seem bigger. I know that's a big job, definitely, but a whole lot of soldiers running around over time, a big Masonic movement to get this done. You see how they're shown here. So what did they do? Build these things up here? This was the idea at the time. They hadn't even built it yet. 1572, you see. Very interesting. They just would be like the biggest mind game that you can think of other than NASA. See now, this guy is supposed to come from 714 BC. So we're meant to believe that this statue head or bust is from that old. It's come down to us in that state. And of course there's all sorts of stone depictions of this guy through Assyria and temples and what have you. These sort of things here, here's a good example. All part of that culture. The owl, like Minerva. This is actually Enheduanna. This is Sargon's priestess daughter. With detail of the wings. This has come from 700 BC. I was watching a documentary and they're walking through some museums and whatever. And they had all these statues there and they were saying, yeah, this is 2,500 years old. Look at the one with the horns coming out. So a little bit of a link to the old Norwegian idea somewhat, isn't it? Sargon. So you see, it's not just Egypt that needs to be looked at. This is Naram Sin. He's the grandson of Sargon. Here are the details here. So this has come down to us 2,500 years. Reminds me so much of the Colosseum statue. Look for some Syrian ruins and just see, because I saw that Palmyra, which we saw in the news to do with this, and that was such a fraud. It looked like something to make a place in the middle of nowhere a tourist attraction, if I've ever seen one. See, a lot of these ruin sites really need some examination. What have we here, you know? This is meant to be things like this. As you can see. Now look at this one here. That's a definite medieval look about it now, doesn't it? This is the Palace of Sargon. And is this meant to be 2,500 years old? A lot of them have this medieval look about all this stuff. The whole of the Middle East, to me, it's some sort of, there's a Swiftie going on here, and a lot of people don't like it because, you know, all their beliefs are challenged. That is the big thing about it. The big thing about it indeed. So I'll be looking more at this topic, and hopefully a few other people have got some ideas. Look at these motifs here. See this sort of stuff? This is in Kurdistan. As I said, look, there's a big cross there. So this could definitely date from the Crusaders. Let's get everybody we can get tourist bucks down there. That's what it's all about, remember? They always say, oh, you know, we stick the tourists down there. We've got to give them something to look at. And build up your other narratives that you've been getting them into about the place. It could be well the possibilities. The possibilities are endless once you destroy the pyramids and once you destroy this sort of stuff. And to me, this is 2,500 years old. That sort of detail, I'm finding it very hard to believe. Very hard to believe indeed. What else is there here in this little puzzle of Sargon? Sargon puzzle, let's call it that. The ruins, you know, they're always very fanciful, the things like this. This is Sargon's palace. Doesn't look much like that one in Turkey, does it? They had different architecture today when they went to Turkey. Oh, look, what's this? This is the ruins here. Okay, let's look at this here. So that's what we get, eh? Again, I'm going to do some more videos on this because this definitely needs some good brickwork here. 2,500 years old. I'm definitely not certain of that. And this is supposed to be some great big city, one of those ones you saw up there. They're always like that. The ruins will never do justice to the plan, and there doesn't seem to be many ruins left. Oh, people took them away somewhere to build another building, but often there's nothing much inside. So I think this place is 25 acres. I'm just reading it. 25 acres, no doubt. There you go, eh? There's a lot of mystery in this Sargon stuff too, don't worry. And look, we have a little pyramid.
Yes, let's just look at the charade of left and right in America and all this stuff that's going on here. I say it's all full of bullshit because you can clearly see here that Michael Moore is a female. That is one big woman. The Babe Ruth woman. So it is no different to Donald Trump. And it's funny, my Ivanka bids went off, but then they got pulled up. The Donald being a girl bids haven't really done that well. They've cruised along. But people just don't want to accept that their great hero, the great Cyrus the Great, is the big girl, Donna Trump. Just like here with Michelle Moore. And when you're the smart tea man about town, you've got to get around with the hot tea girls, haven't you? And conveniently have your tie as a big pink 7. But look at this business going on here. Spice Girls.